Hey, it's Brent from the Crypto Basic Podcast. Thanks for finding your way to our YouTube channel. What follows here is a clip from our Friday flagship episode. And what that is it's an episode that covers the news and goings on of the week. And we've kind of broken that down into individual segments now when we throw it up on YouTube. So if you like what you see, you can listen to the full episode wherever you get your podcasts. And the link is in the description below. And if you like the video format, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and like the video. We would appreciate it.
All right, Kareem. It's almost Halloween. It is the 10-year anniversary for Bitcoin. What do you think?
It's dying. It's dead. Bitcoin's finally dead.
All right, that's it. Close up shop. We're done.
Oh, I was
See you later. Like and subscribe.
Just kidding. There was an interesting essay, article, whatever you want to call it, from the Cato Institute. If you don't know what the Cato Institute is, it's like a think tank that's basically bankrolled by conservative billionaires. They're sometimes pretty terrible on most economic stuff, but they write interesting stuff sometimes. Is this going to be one of those interesting articles?
Yeah, well, you actually were very neutral in that description. You didn't lead me too much one way or another.
Well, I don't want to lead you too much one way or another at any time. Here's what I can say. I did research. So the guy that wrote the article is Lawrence White. He is a professor of economics at George Mason University. He wrote books on monetary policy and banking and stuff like that. So the guy is qualified, no question about it. I went to go look at his social media. His Twitter thing is studying private currency since before it was cool. So, okay, he's not like an anti-crypto guy. And he's writing this essay about, here comes the 10-year anniversary on October 31st. It's going to be 10 years since Satoshi published his famous paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So here's what he talks about. The paper is designed to evaluate 3 goals that Satoshi set out, 3 problems that he tried to solve, and here's what they are. Number 1. I just saw that Brent was messing around with my outline again. Anyway, number 1. The root problem with inflation, because money is controlled by central banks. So in the white paper, Satoshi writes, the root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust. So it's stating the obvious. Central banks are supposed to handle it responsibly. They don't. That's one of the problems Bitcoin's trying to solve. Problem number 2, the lack of privacy when it comes to commercial banking and moving money around, and the high cost of bank-mediated payments. So those are like the main things that Satoshi set out to try to achieve. So how has it been addressed? And now that we are 10 years into this space, well, one of the problems that was solved from this guy's perspective is the source code does prohibit unexpected expansions of currency. We've talked about this before. The fact that it's a consistent monetary supply. It basically, I like this line that he put in the article, that it's an example of a good constitutional monetary rule. So I like that. On the other hand, he points out that we have new problems, which is that Bitcoin is unique in the sense that it's completely unresponsive in its supply to new demand. And the guy, one of the comments he makes is a lot of people compare Bitcoin to gold. And I think even we've done this. But he points out, Bitcoin and gold are different, because at least when the price of gold went up, it actually incentivized people to go find new gold mines. It incentivized people who own gold mines to dig deeper because they can get more value out of that gold. So the production of gold, even though it was kind of consistent, actually increased if the demand increased, and then eventually you would have enough demand that it would kind of level out. Bitcoin doesn't do that. Bitcoin supply is completely fixed. So that's why it has such insane volatility that just crushes even gold. Because any change in demand, the only thing that can adjust is price. So price overcompensates, so to speak. So that problem really hasn't been solved by Bitcoin. But of course, as Brent, you just talked about, this has inspired all kinds of stablecoins. And right now, stablecoin is something that the space is pursuing. So 10 years later, the problem hasn't been solved, but now there are a lot of kind of fruitful efforts trying to achieve a stable coin, and it's something that we assume in the next 5-8 years is probably going to really happen. We could see it play out. There was a recent report about the state of stable coins. We have 57 projects on paper, and 23 that are actually up and running. That includes Tether. That includes, like you said, Brent. It's a hot time.
So hot right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about, I remember early on in the podcast, we started talking about how there's a couple things that start heating up, and that was one of those things. Stable coins became hot, the platform, whatever. Anyway, so we had that. That problem hasn't really been solved, but it's inspired a lot of solutions. The second thing is, has it been accepted by a wide group of people? Has it given us more privacy? Well, from a privacy angle, no, it hasn't really made it more private. We know that Bitcoin's kind of easy to track because of the network, but it has inspired things like Zcash, Pivx, and a lot of Monero. And as far as cash payments, that's pretty much the miserable one. It really hasn't functioned as a currency. When we look at payments, BitPay is the largest one. They process about $110 million a month. That's $1.3 billion a year that they process in payments. Visa's $11 trillion. So 11,000 billion. And the highest cryptocurrency Bitcoin payment is 1 billion. So it just gives us a reminder of the scale. Like, we have not succeeded in that area. Privacy is getting better with some coins. And then the last one, has it created cheaper payments? Has that problem been solved? Well, according to this gentleman, not really. We saw the caps that were created when there's a demand. There's a 7 transaction per second limit. Lightning Network is in effect, though. We've also seen the creation of zero fee cryptocurrencies like Nano and IOTA. So it's interesting. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary. The space is evolving a lot, but it's almost like what we're seeing is a lot of the projects that are trying to take these solutions to the next level are still young. But Brent, there's a line here that I wanted to read to you specifically when he was talking about the volatility. He said F.A. Hayek's vision, and I guess that's an Austrian economist, for competing non-commodity private monies, imagine that issuers would maintain purchasing power stability. A new project called Initiative Q takes this approach. Not a cryptocurrency governed by a program, but a private non-commodity money whose quantity is governed by a human board that pledges to stabilize its purchasing power.
Yeah, we got it, guys.
Full disclosure, I have been a paid consultant on this project. So this guy is it's the Austrian economist that the Q Initiative hired.
Wow. Austrian School, right?
Yeah, he's part of the Austrian School.
Might not make him Austrian.
A professor or whatever. So I was laughing the whole time because this was the connection, the anecdote. This guy writes this entire paper about Bitcoin or whatever for the most part. But then I see this Initiative Q thing and I'm like, that's why I had to go look it up because I was like, wait, Brent's talking about that. And I don't know if you guys noticed, I had this at the beginning of the outline. But when I got to this part, I was like, nah, this has to come after Brent talks about Initiative Q.
Wow. That's kind of funny that you avoided all the Facebook viral spam, but it still found you.
I haven't seen it. Well, I guess I'm not on. Yeah, it still found me.
Look, if you log on to Facebook today, I don't know if you've logged on recently, but if you pop on there, you are going to see Initiative fucking Q all over the place. Like, everybody is just like, oh my God. They're doing that and they're buying Mega Millions tickets. Like, that's good. That's what's happening right now.
All right. So I'm going to open up my Facebook on a different tab while you go through the next story, or you guys do any responses to that story, and see how long it takes me to see Initiative Q.
So the person who wrote all of this was not the Austrian guy, or Austrian School guy that they quoted, right? Or yes. It was. Jesus.
Yes.
So, whoa. So,
and actually, the guy that you referenced in the article, the guy that wrote the article that you referenced, David Gerard, he talks about it when he talks about the people at the beginning. He's like, the other key participant is Lawrence White, an economist at George Mason, who is heavily into Austrian economics, though he's not a complete gold bug. White worked out the economics of the Q private currency. So look, Cato Institute, going back to what I said at the beginning, is a bunch of rich guys with high educations that get paid by other rich guys to regurgitate whatever they want them to tell them. I'm not saying this was happening here, but it doesn't surprise me that somebody that works at Cato took a bunch of money to design something for whoever's willing to pay a bunch of money.
Man, oh man. Oh, it comes
like
full circle.
I felt like this was fairly positive, though.
I agree.
He was saying, like, here's all the things that crypto's done right. Oh, here's this thing that does it all too, but also is something.
No. It was very in passing, but look, we always talk about how we should be cautious with the source, how we should think critically, all that kind of stuff, right? But this is a little bit of a lesson in reverse, which is, yeah, okay, this guy has some weird angles. I don't really like somebody that's connected to this, but that doesn't mean that every word out of their mouth is no longer valid, or that every point they make about everything is invalid or biased or whatever. And that's actually why I didn't say that until I had read the article, because I felt like it was very fair, a lot of the overview that he made. But if we lead off with that, then it's hard to take anything he says seriously. So
yeah,
shady sources don't mean shitty content.
The only part of it that I'm still going to have a little bit of an issue with, and I've said this before, can't we just increase the amount of decimal points in Bitcoin, and now we've like effectively increased the supply? Like, I don't know, like not necessarily, but like.
No, I think you're missing the point that is being made, though, because number one, you could. But it would have to be pre-agreed, and just like all the changes that we've seen, it would be a big debate, and everybody would have to agree to run the code to allow transactions smaller than a Satoshi. That's number one. But number two, even if you did it, that'd be like a one-time change. You could be like, all right, from now on, there's 2 units that are smaller than a Satoshi. You make that change in the code. Okay, now for the next however long, the supply is still consistent with each block, so any change in demand is still going to only be reflected in the price.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just what I know, your argument there, when we run out of the ability to spend this stuff because it becomes too expensive as economies adapt it. Like, once we get 1 Bitcoin will be astronomical in price, to the point where 1 Satoshi is going to be significantly more than $1 if, like, you know, mass adoption happens or whatever.
You heard me make that argument?
Haven't you said that, like, basically it'll be too prohibitive, like, if it's deflationary?
Let me just clarify no, go ahead, Mike. But
No. I would rather respond.
Okay. So just to clarify my argument, I'm not saying that that's going to be the problem. That problem is easier to solve. If Bitcoin is worth so much that people realize they need another decimal. For example, if a Satoshi is worth more than a cent, which it might be, I don't know how close we are, but that's an easy solution. People are just like, okay.
Not close at all.
Right. Okay, so once we got to that, right, you could just add zeros. That's not going to be that contentious.
Wait, Kareem, what is the price of Bitcoin today?
6,800, something like that. 6,500.
You know what? It's been so not volatile that's all right. You could have checked like 3 weeks ago and it'd be about the same.
But here's the point that I was making about the currency, Brent. As long as the price of Bitcoin is the supply of Bitcoin is always consistent. There's only 20 million Bitcoin. The economies of the world are going to keep growing. There's going to be more money. The U.S. economy today, let's say it's 20 trillion. In 50 years, it's going to be 40, 50, 60, 70 trillion. Same thing goes for Japan, China, Russia, whatever. So you have these growing economies that are putting increasing demand on a asset that has a limited supply, and that demand will change from time to time. So it will always be volatile. That's the argument that I'm making. Bitcoin will always be volatile until we do something else.
The only thing that I was thinking, as far as like a solution for further decimal points, is that I feel like
what? Oh, hey. What's up, Matt?
What's up?
Surprise.
What? Was it 10 p.m. that we were supposed to do this? Okay, this is well, let's put the flagship on pause for a minute. This is our
Brett, this was foreshadowing your segments, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, I thought I had until 11 p.m. to
Are you guys early or
I thought we had another hour. We were literally in the middle of an episode and I don't lock the room. So I'm like, wait.
Well, shit, I'm sorry, guys. Hey, dude. Perfect, sounds good.
But hey, nice to meet you.
Awesome, man.
Hey, nice to meet you guys.
Nice cameo appearance. I love it.
All right, guys. Cheers.
All right.
All right, breaking news on the flagship. We have a interview coming up here in about 30 minutes with who, Brent?
That was Matthew from the Crypto 101 podcast that just popped on.
Well, there you go.
I just want to point out how ironic it is that sometimes Kareem, one of the members of Crypto Basic, has tried to join this room and it's locked in the middle of a flagship. Anybody else can join.
Well, Matthew definitely is not on the terrorist list, so he got immediate access.
Wow, Mike.
Damn, burn.
Okay.
Hey, it's Brent again. Remember me from the beginning of the episode? I'm here to remind you that the Crypto Basic podcast are not financial advisors. We're in fact idiots, and everything we are doing here is for your entertainment only. All investments have inherent risk. Please do your own research. Do not listen to us. And never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks for watching.